The story starts in Ichikawa High School in a small Japanese town. The senior students are in the classroom receiving their recent test results. One of the students is Miyamoto Asuka, a friendly but academically dumb student. Even though the test was the easiest one so far, she doesn't get any answers right and scores a 0. Her boyfriend, Yoshida, looks at the brighter side, stating that 0 is Asuka's lucky number. They are scolded by the teacher who knows if Asuka doesn't start studying, her future is bleak. Then it is time for another history test that Asuka dreads. The first question asks her to name a monument that is famous for granting wishes when offered a coin. She doesn't know the answer, but instead of leaving the space blank, she writes the name of a random place called Gachimo. Just when she puts the name down on the paper, a bright light can be seen outside the window. Somewhere in the city, a strange path of jungle forms on its own. The following day, she and Yoshida come across a path on their way to school. They do not remember it being there prior to today, which makes them curious. Letting curiosity get the best of them, the couple decides to explore it. After a minute's walk, they find a shrine whose name they cannot pronounce. Asuka throws a coin and wishes to get 100 on his next test. The two then return to school without thinking much of the exploration. They get the result of the previous test, and Asuka scores 5 out of 100. She huffs at herself. They believe in the shrine's power that day. The class has yet another quiz about world politics. The first question asks them the name of the current Japanese Prime Minister. Asuka doesn't have a clue, but instead of leaving the paper blank, she writes Yoshida's name on it. She doesn't know the answers to any of the questions after that, so instead she takes a nap. After school, Asuka and Yoshida go to her house to hang out. As they walk in, they hear the noise of her parents arguing. Her father is a salesman who is about to be laid off, while her mother has an affair with a younger man. Asuka asks Yoshida to ignore them and brings him to her room. On the way, he notices empty plates and bowls outside a door. It turns out that Asuka has a twin brother named Kasik. He used to be the best in his studies, but he failed the high school entrance exam. Since he was known as the best scorer, the failure was very hard on him. He has locked himself away in his room, playing computer games. Asuka sulks after talking about her brother. To make her feel better, Yoshida goes to the supermarket to get them something to eat. Somewhere else, their teacher is grading the test papers. Suddenly, the shrine starts glowing and so do the teacher's glasses. A while later, Asuka calls Yoshida and asks him what is taking so long. Yoshida claims that he is terribly busy and won't be able to hang out that day. Right after the call, she gets a text from her classmate saying that Yoshida is in huge trouble. It turns out that he has been selected as the Prime Minister of Japan. The interviews of him posing for the camera as the Prime Minister are going viral on social media. The next day, Asuka goes to school, still confused about how her boyfriend, who went to the grocery store, turned into the Prime Minister. Several other news reports about the presidents of different countries going missing are also circulating at school. The teacher arrives with the graded papers and hands Asuka hers with a big smile on his face. Surprisingly enough, she got full marks on the test, even though she left most of it empty. Taking a closer look, she realizes that Yoshida became the Prime Minister because she wrote so on the test. Similarly, the presidents of other countries are going missing because she left all the other questions blank. The shrine has granted her wish, but in a different way than she would have thought. Now the world will change according to her. Answers for her to get the full marks to redeem her mistake. She Googles all the right answers and writes them down on the test paper. Fortunately enough, the plan works. Yoshida is fired on his first day at work, and the presidents from around the world are also found instantly. Everything goes back to normal. It is then time for the next test. This time, Asuka is not nervous because nothing much can be changed if she answers wrong on a math test. After school, Yoshida meets Asuka again and tells her how he was fired. Asuka calms him down before telling him the truth about her strange power. If she doesn't believe her and asks her to write something to prove it, but before she can, a tower in the middle of the town starts wiggling. This is because of a mistake she made on the math test. The couple immediately runs to the teacher's room and corrects the mistake, finally bringing the tower to its original form. Even the experts on TV cannot explain what caused the building to wiggle. While returning home, Asuka and Yoshida go to the place where the shrine was earlier, but it has completely vanished by now. Since they do not remember the name, they have no way to look for it again. Now the only way to save the world is for Asuka to study hard and get all the questions right. Determined to do her best, she sits down to study that night but falls asleep a few minutes later. In the following scene, Asuka and Yoshida are outside the teacher's room, patiently waiting for him to grade the recent test papers. As expected, Asuka gets full marks, but she hopes she doesn't make a significant change to the world. On returning home, her father greets her excitedly, having made the biggest sale of his career. Asuka unknowingly wrote that tap water is the most valuable source of energy in the last test, making people buy more water purifiers and making her father a lot of money. She panics for a second, but after seeing her father happy, she decides to keep the world as it is for now. Later that day, the news reports a bunch of riots happening around the world for water when things get out of hand. Asuka quickly corrects the answer sheet and changes the world back to normal. Suddenly, she gets an idea to solve her parents' marital problems using the power that she has. In the next test, she is asked the name of the astronaut who is about to go on a long trip to space. She writes the name of her mother's boyfriend and sends him to space the next day. Because of this, he breaks up with her mother. She starts focusing on her family and her husband. After his departure, Asuka's life could not get any better. Now the only person she has to help is her brother Kasich. In the next task, she writes that her brother would come out and wish everyone good morning. The plan doesn't work as she had thought though, because instead of Kasich coming out, their father barges into his room and forces him to come outside. This causes a huge argument in the family. It is revealed that her father has again been threatened to be laid off, and her mother has started texting other men. Asuka finally realizes that solving her problems with the power is only temporary. She starts making an actual effort to talk to her brother since he is still an academic genius. She sits outside his door and studies out loud every day. She makes several mistakes that bother Kasich, but he doesn't correct her for a few days. Then one day, she tries skipping a math problem because it is too difficult. Kasich talks for the first time and teaches her how to solve it. Because of her brother's guidance, Asuka starts studying harder, even though he only talks to her through a closed door. Eventually, her father starts reading books and puts extra effort into his work as well. Her mother also focuses on her family. A week later, Asuka scores full marks on a test without anyone's help. She runs to tell Yoshida the good news, but he refuses to open the door even then. The following morning, Asuka and her parents are at a dining table enjoying a meal. To their surprise, Kasich comes downstairs and greets them. He also apologizes to his father for giving up and promises to do better from now on. One day on their way to school, Asuka and Yoshida find the first test paper inside Asuka's bag. She had torn it because she scored only 5 out of 100. She joins the pieces together, which suddenly forms the passageway to the shrine. Only then does she notice that she had written about a wish-granting shrine named Gacha Mo as the very first answer. The shrine must have manifested because of it. The couple quickly goes to the shrine and begs to reverse the wish and change the world back to normal. They wait for something to happen and are disappointed when nothing changes. In school, the teacher takes yet another test, this time about world geography and population. Suddenly, Asuka remembers that the shrine only granted her wish because she offered a coin. This means to reverse the wish, she will have to take the coin back. She quickly completes the test and rushes to retrieve it. However, the coin is inside a locked chest. She uses a stick to try to get it out and is almost successful. Somewhere else, Kasich and his parents are chatting about his future. He is happy to have finally gotten over his hiatus and is excited for his life ahead. His mother is also sorry to have troubled her husband so much. The family finally solves their differences in one sitting. Simultaneously, we see Asuka's teacher grading the most recent test. He gets to Asuka's paper and she scores 100 as usual. At the same time, she accidentally drops the coin back into the chest. Suddenly, the coin shines brightly. A light on her seconds later, no one is in front of the shrine. In fact, the entire city, country, and the world are empty, as if every human being vanished out of the blue. In the last scene, we see that Asuka missed the final question in the recent test. The question asks what the current world population is. Since Asuka left it blank, humans stop existing. Please consider subscribing for additional content of this nature, and activate the notification bell while also leaving a thumbs up to support the channel. We appreciate your time spent watching.